want to welcome you all into episode 42 of Trojan Talk. I'm Zach Taranko here with Cole Purvis and Jeff Christianberry. How you guys doing this morning?
Very good.
Awesome.
It is a snowy day. It's a slushy day too. The rain made it to slush. Not great for my shoes. I got my shoes real wet going to my car this morning. But we have a lot to talk about, and we will start with TA Sports and girls basketball. And last night, the girls basketball lost their undefeated streak. They were 13-0. Now they're 13-1. They lost to Cheverus 49-35. Cole, we were there. We broadcasted that game. It just didn't look too great throughout the game. They were lost most of the game. Couldn't score consistently. What does this game say about their team? We obviously know that this game doesn't define their season, but what does it say about how that team is playing?
Well, you look at it, and you'd never want to have a loss. And I know we talk about, maybe it's good that they had a loss. I don't know about that, but it was good that they got the game in, because getting a loss and getting the game in is better than not playing the game at all, because now they got to test themselves against one of the elite teams up north in Cheverus, which they had an absolute powerhouse. And when it comes to maybe a potential state championship down the road, we know TA's rolled through the South, and I wouldn't be surprised if they basically have a cakewalk to the state championship because they crushed Gorham, the second best team in that conference. But then they get to the state championship, and you're going to have to deal with the Cheveruses, the Oxford Hills, and maybe Bangor might be in the mix as well. So you certainly want to test yourself against those teams. But yesterday, they were missing that composure that they've had all season long, that poise that they've had, and the confidence shooting from behind the arc. When they can get open and shoot these threes. We saw in the Hoops for Hope game, Hannah Cook had a great game. Addison Sulikowski was shooting very well from deep. And so if they can get back to that, then I think they can beat anybody. But they were just missing that confidence and that composure yesterday. Against Cheverus, a good team that can defend the three-point line really well. They were contesting TA shots a lot and just not enough three-pointers taken. And they live and die by the three. We've talked about that all season long, and they went away from that yesterday. And of course, Cheverus, it's tough to deal with Emma Lazat. She's a great player. Their center, a great shot blocker, and they really couldn't get anything going in the paint. But there were a ton of off-balance shots yesterday. I think that's something they need to fix. So getting to a state championship, I still feel pretty confident in this team. They're 13-1, which is outstanding, and they still have a ton of great players. But definitely, they're going to have to make some adjustments and have to improve if they want to go all the way and win a state championship.
As you said, you don't want to lose, but it's one of those things. They've kind of been teetering on the edge for a few weeks now in terms of getting that first loss. I remember I forget which game we were broadcasting. They were playing on the road against Scarborough, and it was the alumni broadcast we did a few weeks ago, and they just did not play well against a Scarborough team who's mediocre this year, record-wise at least. And just, they came back and won that game, but it's been kind of having some games where, look, going undefeated is very difficult to do. And when you're a team that has really 3 or 4 really good players versus 1 or 2 like amazing superstars, then you're going to have nights like that. And I think, I didn't watch the game live. I saw it on video, but, I tuned in. Second half, they certainly got it together, especially in the fourth quarter. They started to score again, but they kind of gave it up on the other end too. So, look, Cheverus comes in with a lot of confidence. What does this mean for another matchup? I still think, TA is the best team in the South, so I'm not too worried about the playoff run in the bracket. But when you get to states, it's so different. It's only a few weeks away because we're really at the end of the season. But when you play in that different arena, that different atmosphere, you're going to be playing with more confidence because you just won a regional championship theoretically and beat some good teams. So is it good that they lost? No. But again, I say, just you live and die by the 3, so just hammer that the rest of the way. And if you try to change things up at this point when you played 14 games, then that's going to be really difficult. But hats off to Cheverus. Will they see them again in the States? I think Cheverus is the second or third best team in the North, but anything can happen in those playoffs when you get to the Cross Insurance Arena. So, it's not great to get a loss, but it's not the most shocking thing. And look, maybe the different start time is different too. I mean, it's playing at 4:30 is much different than playing at 6 or 6:30 or 7 even if they play some road games. So who knows what kind of factor that had to do with it too. But it looked like a good crowd and a good game for all the eyes were here, which is great for girls basketball.
Yeah. So my next question about girls basketball for you guys, obviously the court at the Cross Insurance Arena is different. It's a different kind of size, maybe
a little bit bigger, but
shape.
Really it's about the space behind the backboards.
The space as well as a bigger arena, and obviously they're playing playoff games. Do you think? So my question is, do you think that TA could be upset on their way to a state championship? Looking at how that team played in a pressured, that was a pressure-filled game. Lots of it was a good matchup last night. Some of the players that were newer to that kind of atmosphere did not play very well. Do you think the TA could be upset with either a bad shooting night or just the atmosphere of the playoffs kind of getting to them?
I don't think the atmosphere part of it, because they're a pretty experienced team. And look, when I say upset, I don't think like losing in the regional final would be an upset. I mean, if you're asking if they're going to lose in the first 2 rounds, I just don't see that happening when you literally look at the other teams. I mean, look, again, right now the heel points are TA, Gorham, Sanford, South Portland is the top 4. Like, I don't see them losing to Sanford, South Portland, Scarborough, Bonny Eagle, or Noble, who are the teams that could play in the playoffs in the South. Gorham, look, if they go out and lose to Gorham, I know they beat them in Hoops for Hope. That's an emotional night. Like, I'm not going to say that's a huge upset and a huge choke job. I mean, we're talking, again, I brought up this year a couple of years ago when they were the number 1 seed and they lost to the 8 seed, I think Wyndham at the time, in the regional quarterfinals up at the Expo, and that was a joke. That was an upset. I don't see that happening to this team. If they lose in the regional final to a decent Gorham team, that's not going to be – look, it's going to be disappointing, but it's not going to be a huge upset. So when you're really looking at the big picture and do they have the mental makeup to avoid an upset? Yes, I think they do, because pretty much all of these girls are very experienced, and that doesn't seem to be their problem at the moment. It's really just about that shooting that night. And I think they could overcome almost any team in the South if they have a bad shooting night.
I could see it. I can see it upset happening. I think Sanford came into Linnell earlier this season and came within 10 points of TA. So if they lose that confidence and that composure like I was talking about earlier and their shots aren't falling, they could lose. Again, they're going to get likely a bye. So head straight to the Cross Insurance Arena. And another problem yesterday was turnovers. And if they're turning the ball over and just playing carelessly, then I think Gorham could knock them off. Gorham did play 2 games close to TA earlier this year, and Sanford, as I just mentioned. But again, it's the playoffs and anything could happen. So, of course, they could get knocked off. But I still think they have a great chance to go all the way to the state championship. But you don't want to take anything for granted and handle your business in those regional final and quarterfinal games.
But it takes 2 to pull off an upset, too. It would take TA not being mentally ready and having a bad night, plus the other team being mentally ready. That's why I look at these other teams, and I don't see anybody that has a ton of veteran leadership that's made a run. Like, maybe that's why Gorham probably has some girls that have been there, even maybe they weren't the superstars. But yeah, that's how it is. I just want to give a quick shout out too. This has nothing to do with TA, but Mackenzie Holmes, the former Gorham player, is like one of the best players in the country now, and she's like going to be Big Ten Player of the Year. Indiana's in the top, I think the top 6 now of girls. So it's cool. I remember covering her quite a bit, and she got the big scholarship, and you're like, all right, well, was that really going to translate to the NCAA? And she's been unbelievable, averaging a double-double pretty much this whole season. So it's pretty cool to see a Maine girl, being one of the best players in the country.
Yeah, we don't see that a lot, and hopefully we'll see that
with Cooper Flagg too in a couple of years.
And JP Estrella maybe at Tennessee. Yeah. We'll move over to boys basketball now. They this past weekend had a shocking loss to Gorham, 59-52. The first thing I want to say is the funny thing I saw is after that, Taylor Mannix and Greg Levinsky do their power rankings every week or every 2 weeks, and after that loss, they put Gorham above TA, which I was very confused about. I'm not sure how that one loss dropped them below, as they pretty much just dominated them the first time they played them at Linnell. But looking at the boys basketball team, they've lost to Portland. They just lost to Gorham. What are your concerns with this team right now as we head closer and closer to the playoffs? I
don't really have any concerns. And, it's interesting. So I didn't see the game, obviously, at Gorham, but I did talk to some people who were there and basically said, look, this team had played a ton of games in a short amount of time, and that particular game, they missed a ton of layups. Look, if you do that in the playoffs, you're going to lose. I mean, that's true for any team. So again, when you're looking in the big picture at TA, I'm not so much worried about the South. Like, yes, South Portland could have a challenge, or Gorham could have a challenge, because we saw that when they were here, they were the team that jumped out to like a 20-3 lead or something, and then they ended up folding in the second half. But I'm not as worried. I just think, again, when you get to the States and you're going to be playing Portland or Oxford Hills, much like the girls, it's going to be a total toss-up if you make it there. But I just don't have much worries, because I think in crunch time, Will's been there, Alicio's been there. A lot of these players were, Braden's been there. They were in the regional final last year. They're going to have that revenge factor going on. Look, it's kind of a late season lull. I'm sure they're like, all right, we're basically secured the 1 seed. There's nothing else we can really accomplish. We're not undefeated, so it's not like we're going for that. I just want the playoffs to be here to get back to that Cross Insurance Arena, get some revenge on South Portland and the rest of the team. So look, there's certainly some things you nitpick on. There are times where if Braden's not shooting very well and Will's turning the ball over, they don't really have many options. A lot of the younger guys specifically missed a lot of shots against Gorham. Some of the guys that hit shots previously, that's going to be some growing pains. So I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned really in the least about their chances just because they lost to Gorham. Now, if they lose another game or two down the stretch, considering there should be favorites in other games, that maybe is a little more concerning. They will have to play in a quarterfinal match here, but it's probably going to be against Massabesic, which will be probably a laugher. And then, then we get some serious competition during February break. So, no, not concerned in the least.
I think there was a clear overreaction to TA losing to Gorham. It's one of those things where it's not like football. You lose a game and it's such a big deal. You said it. That was their third game of the week, and sometimes you're tired and you go in on the road and play a good Gorham team that can shoot. Gorham hadn't played at all that week, and it's kind of like TA this week. They don't have any games until Friday night. That was Gorham last week, and they I don't think they had a game in like 5+ days, and then they go in on Saturday and beat TA. I don't think it's a big deal at all. These two teams have played 2 close games, and to rank Gorham ahead of TA, I mean, we're forgetting the fact that TA also beat Gorham earlier this season, and that they split their matchups. And then TA's only other loss was to Portland. Gorham hasn't played Portland yet, and I'm fairly confident that Portland would handle their business if they did play Gorham. Gorham also lost to Bonnie Eagle earlier in the season. They lost to Noble. If you're the number 1 team in the South, supposedly, those are 2 games that you should be winning, Bonnie Eagle and Noble. No disrespect, they're good teams, but if you're the number 1 team in the South, you probably want to win those games. That being said, though, the missed layups for sure. I watched a Noble game at home about a week ago, I think, and they missed so many layups. It was frustrating to watch, and Will is obviously a great distributor of the ball, but when these other guys are not able to finish at the rim, then that can hurt them. And I didn't see the Gorham game, but if that was the problem, again, for 2 games in a row, then that's something they want to clean up. And they'll have an opportunity against a good Class A Falmouth team tomorrow night at home. I believe Judd Armstrong is healthy for that. I know he's been hurt, but Judd Armstrong is their best player. So it'll be another test for TA, and hopefully they can get right and beat Falmouth and keep cruising. But, yeah, I definitely think they're the best team in the South. No reason to rank Gorham ahead of them at this point.
As far as the rankings go, it's a little recency biase. And it gets people talking. Look, we're talking about it, right?
Week. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand the whole thing about, well, they just beat them. How could you rank somebody over? But it's like, as Cole said, it's basketball. You got 18 games to really look at. I mean, you got to look at the big picture. So I think if those teams play 10 times, TA wins 7 or 8 of them. So that's how I would look at it in terms of ranking.
Yeah, I agree. And that game versus Falmouth, as Cole said, it's going to be a good one. Last year, Falmouth beat TA with a buzzer beater by Brady Coyne. Coyne did, oh my God, what's the word? Graduate. He graduated. So
just like you're going to do.
Yes.
Remember that.
Judd Armstrong is the leader of that team now. We will talk about boys hockey now. Cole and you were both not there for their OT loss to Brunswick. I was there with Troy and Josh, weathering the cold weather. A tough loss for them, 2-1 in overtime. Brunswick was just a dominant force. They beat them in the physical game. But the question I have for you guys is, obviously they've lost to Falmouth twice, both by big scores, and now losing to Brunswick. Do you think that these are issues with the teams, or with TA, not being able to convert offensively or struggling on defense, or are these just games where the other team was better and they just did not win?
Well, I did see some of that game. I was in Florida, obviously. I mean, amazing overtime goal. Yep. I mean, just filthy goal by Brunswick. Totally deserved. It seemed like a very emotional game, too. I think Brunswick probably came in with a little chip on their shoulder because they're Class B and everything and undefeated. I mean, yeah, I'm a little bit more concerned. I don't think there's scheduled losses. I mean, if you want to compete for a state championship, which is what this program's all about, then you shouldn't really have scheduled losses. You should be able to sneak in one of these big ones. And looking at their schedule, they haven't really had that major, like, wow, what a great win by TA. I mean, they've had some good wins, but have they had that really signature win? I don't think so. So really looking at them, again, as we said before the season, they're still missing that little bit of an X factor in these big games against Brunswick that could have, this is a great example, come through and score that overtime goal. Maybe if you haven't played that well, you sneak in and get a victory, maybe that even if you don't deserve it. Those are the kind of wins that you need to go into the playoffs, and they're probably going to go on the road for some of the playoff games as well in hostile environments. And I just remember last year when they played at Falmouth in the playoffs, and they were the underdogs in that game, but just had some awesome performances from some of their studs, and it really changed the momentum. Not saying that they don't have the potential for that this year, but they haven't shown it just yet. So those a little more concerning than the other teams we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I do hate to say it, but I don't think they're quite as strong as last year. And they've lost to Falmouth twice, and then Brunswick, of course, they're not going to have to compete with in the playoffs, different class. But, you look at all three of these big winter sports, boys and girls basketball and hockey, and I think back to my predictions at the beginning of the year, and I still think all three of those are really holding true. I don't think this hockey team is a state championship team. Maybe they sneak into the regional final, but they're a good team, better than just middle of the pack, but I don't see them really going all the way. And then boys and girls basketball, I think I picked them both to lose in the state championship, which I stand by both of those because I think the North has a better division in both of those sports. So we'll see how it goes. But again, we'll make it to the playoffs and see how the hockey team performs because they pulled off some magic last year. So
that's the thing. Hockey of all the sports is the one where you could see a deep run out of nowhere because really a lot of it comes down to the goalie. And a goalie stands on his head. We've seen it at every level of hockey ever.
Yep.
In basketball, it's really tough to pull off 3 or 4 upsets in a row. Maybe in Class C or D that you see it sometimes. In hockey, it's possible. So we're not, if they're listening, we're not writing you off yet, but we're looking for some big signature wins down the stretch.
Yeah, they have one more matchup against Scarborough, which will be another one for them. As Scarborough was coming into the season, the team to beat, and they obviously beat them 5-3, but still looking for another big win there. And
it was last year. Like I said, last year they beat Scarborough 6-0, right? In the second last game of the regular season, then lost him in states. I mean, that's how hockey works. So,
give some updates on some other TA sports. Before we get into any professional sports, I want to talk about swimming first. The boys team has won 4 out of their 6 meets for swimming. The girls team has won 5 out of 6 meets. I believe some records have been broken by both the boys and girls individually on those 2 respective teams. So good for them. They should still have a few more. I've seen that in the last few weeks, a lot of meets have been getting canceled because of the weather. So that's just been unfortunate.
But they have their state tournament coming up as well, and a lot of different. So it's weird. They do a team competition and also singles, kind of like track.
Yep.
So we'll definitely keep an eye on the TA Facebook page for some results of those.
Yep. Looking at the track teams, the boys won their meet on January 21st, a good win there. That was against Gorham. I believe was the top competition there. The girls have all placed well this season. They have not won a meet yet, but they've placed 2nd and 3rd many times. And then girls hockey is 4-7-1 with a recent win over Portland Deering. A lot of co-op teams in girls hockey. I believe the girls hockey team is like TA, Biddeford, Sanford, and Wells maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had a decent season so far for girls hockey.
We have 7 girls, I think, from Thornton Academy on that hockey team.
And to finish up with TA Sports, we just want to mention the Hoops for Hope game. Obviously, it happened already. It was a great event. It was a lot of fun to broadcast that game with Cole. The Hoops for Hope Foundation raised $28,000, which, as I have been told, is more than they do on any normal given year. Usually it's around, I'm not sure.
15 or 20 usually, I think.
So a great event. Lots of great raffles. It was very sad to not hear.
Did you win anything?
No. And
bummer.
What I heard was that one person won like 5 or 6 things.
Really?
And they won a bunch of the good things, like the TV and the all those things.
Good for them.
So, yeah. But a great event. It was lots of fun, and obviously TA got the big win, 64-30. I know you weren't there, which was.
I watched it, but it's cool to. It's actually kind of cool to watch for once to see just the amount of pink that you see in that state. And, they wear the pink jerseys, which is really cool, and you see the ceremony before where they get to. I think what's great is it's not just about the fundraising, but it connects the entire basketball program from 3rd graders all the way through because they're raising money as well. And a lot of times you get the 4th or 5th graders that raise the most money and they really get into it. And it'd be really interesting to go back 5 or 6 years and look at the video to see if any of those girls ended up being on the varsity team and becoming superstars. But I mean, it's a great event. I'm glad they were able to get it in because of weather and everything. So it's good. Another great event for Hoops for Hope.
Yeah. We're going to move it over to professional sports now, and we're always starting off with football. We must, as we're getting closer and closer to the Super Bowl. NFC and AFC Championships are coming up. I'm just going to go right into it. I have this question on the docs. I'm assuming you guys know what I'm going to ask. Could Mr. Irrelevant win a Super Bowl?
No. I think he's going to turn into a pumpkin this weekend. I mean, look, it's a cool story. I'm not sold that he's the next Tom Brady or anything else. I mean, he is blessed with an elite defense. And we talk about the Patriots. I've talked about them all year being an overrated defense. They've been a good defense, not a great defense. That is an elite defense. They are elite at every level. They get a great scheme. They should have lost to the Cowboys. If Dak Prescott plays like a competent quarterback, they'd probably lose that game right there. So, and look, I think the Eagles are are fallible, but I think this is where it ends because of Purdy. I mean, you saw Purdy didn't make any horrible plays against the Cowboys, but didn't make many great plays either. And so I think that this is where it comes to an end. Now, could they go through if their defense plays crazy and they win 17-13? Absolutely could happen. I think it's crazy that Mr. Relevant's there. I think the 49er quarterback room is an insane story with Jimmy G and obviously Trey Lance. I mean, what are they going to do after this year? I have no idea who they're gonna keep. I think Purdy could be a competent quarterback, but I don't see Joe Burrow in him or Josh Allen or anything else. So it would be such against the norm for a mediocre quarterback. It's mediocre right now to win a Super Bowl. So no, I think it comes to an end this weekend.
And they're going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, and there hasn't been much of a formula for beating them with Jalen Hurts only one loss. And you look at these two teams, the Niners, you think about their run game and the Shanahan run game and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, who's been quiet, by the way. I don't know where he was in that divisional game. Only had like 40-something yards. But anyway, the run game for the Niners is their strength, and I'm not sure their run game is even better than Philadelphia's with Jalen Hurts, and Miles Sanders has had a productive season, and, of course, the Eagles' offensive line has been outstanding for years. And so the Niners' strength, I think the Eagles do it better, and that's why I think the Eagles are going to win this game. And then, of course, you have a quarterback in Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, who, I mean, we keep saying it every week. When is he going to make that big rookie mistake? And he really hasn't yet. But I agree with you. I hate to do it, but I think he could throw a couple big interceptions this week. And the advantage at quarterback is just too huge for Philadelphia. You've got Mr. Irrelevant going up against a guy who I believe would have been the MVP if he didn't if he didn't miss 2 games. And Jalen Hurts is literally Superman this year. And his connection with A.J. Brown is something that you cannot overlook. I think the Eagles win by 10 points, maybe even more. And Shanahan's done a great job with this team. And the defense, their linebackers, I mean, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are just amazing. In every level of their defense, the Niners are so fun to watch. But you can't overlook how big of a gap there is between Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy. So I got the Eagles.
It's just crazy because, like, when you look at these games, both games could go either way. Like, I wouldn't want to bet either of them. The thing is, when you get to these levels, it's all about the margin for error. Like, which team, when you're trying to predict, which team has the more margin for error? And of the 4 teams playing, the 49ers have the least margin for error because I don't think they can win a game 35-31. Like, unless Deebo Samuel has some kind of freak mode where he gets the ball on a 5-yard screen and runs for 3 touchdowns, that kind of thing. The Eagles can play, they can make mistakes and still win. Purdy cannot throw 2 or 3 interceptions and then win. It just can't happen.
Yeah, no, we've seen some bad quarters from Jalen Hurts. On my fantasy team, it was kind of the story for a lot of weeks. He would have a down first half and then would just explode with some rushing touchdowns in the second half. And so, yeah, I think the Eagles they could start slow and then come back. I don't see that with the Niners.
Yeah, I agree. So look at the AFC side, Bengals versus the Chiefs. The first thing I got to say is at least to me, I thought it was so cringy when Joe Burrow was like, what was he like? You got to send those vouchers back when they were talking.
I think that was good. That was good smack talk.
You got to.
But that's because everyone knew he was going to say that when did he say that? He said send the vouchers back.
He said got to send those refunds.
Refunds back, yeah.
Back.
The whole
I thought
team
it was great.
I thought
it was great.
No,
look, it's one of those things. Look, practically, yes, the NFL had to sell the tickets. Like they couldn't have waited.
Exactly. They do that it's like if you buy tickets to Game 7 of a playoff series. Like it might not happen. Why are people so upset about them selling these tickets? You have to.
Yeah, I understand that they're upset about the situation. Like them having to go to a neutral site would have been bogus, I think. Especially the coin flip thing. That would have been even more bogus, but they've already kind of gone past those. So when you look at the game, I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, look, I think the biggest matchup, of course, is the Bengals' offensive line because they've been awful all year. They somehow pulled it together and played amazing last week against Buffalo, which I think it was more about Buffalo just totally laying an egg, which we can talk about too, and how disappointing they are. The Chiefs. I could see the Chiefs winning by. I could see either team winning by 21 points. I mean, unlikely. But, I mean, the Bengals seem to have something just special going right now. But the Chiefs also, I mean, with Kelsey, it comes down to they got to defend Kelsey because I think that's where Jacksonville, like, I don't know what they were thinking, letting Kelsey have 12, 13 catches in the first 3 quarters. That was just inexcusable. It's one thing if he makes some crazy touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, but to just let him cook for the whole game was kind of silly. Yeah. But I think that that could be an epic game. If I had to bet, I'll give the slight edge of Kansas City because they're at home. And I do think that they're going to be able to scheme
Burrowhead.
Yeah, I know, but I just think the Bengals offensive line is
Did you
just gonna.
just come up with that right now? Or
No,
I'm sure
the
he's heard
Bengals
that.
have been saying that.
I'm sure he's heard that.
I'm not that creative.
I just think the Bengals offensive line is going to finally show the cracks that we've seen all year, and it's only going to take 1 or 2 drive-killing sacks to change that game because I think it's prime time for Mahomes. But I could see anything happen. I can't wait for that game.
Yeah. The one thing I would have liked, at least I saw this, I'm not sure if this was true. If the Bills had played the Chiefs at the neutral site, they were going to have the Bills fans sit on one end and the Chiefs fans on the other.
That's what they should do.
Like a soccer game.
That's what soccer does,
yeah.
and they should do that every regular season game. There should be a section at every section
that would be
for
cool.
away fans.
But you just said we might talk about the Bills laying an egg, and we can do that. I don't know if you guys saw all the reports. Stephon Diggs left the locker room way earlier than one of the backup running backs had to bring him back for one of those interviews or something like that.
The coaches talk.
Yeah, he was furious. He has every right to be. He's in. I would equate or compare his situation to something like the Oilers right now, where if they can't do anything in the playoffs for the next 2 or 3 years, Connor McDavid or Draisaitl, one of their top players, are going to want to leave because they can't. Buffalo, same thing. It's just struggled in the playoffs for the last few years and can't seem to make it to a Super Bowl. I don't know how I feel about this. I like Josh Allen. I like the Bills. I think they're a good team, but it's just a tough game.
You never seen by far the biggest moment of their season is when Von Miller went down. I think that they have a wholly different experience because their defense couldn't stop Joe Burrow. I mean, it was easy. And look, Burrow's getting a lot of positive publicity this week, and he should because he had a good game. But, boy, it was easy sailing in that game against Buffalo. There were wide-open receivers. What the craziest thing about it is Buffalo doesn't seem to know how to play in that weather. I mean, they talked about building a dome up there, and everyone's like, no, don't build a dome. But maybe they're onto something. Yeah. Look, as a Patriots fan, I don't like the Bills, so I'm happy they lost. And it obviously, for me, look, as a Patriots fan, too, it's not like the Patriots are closer to the Bills now. They still kind of own us, so I'm not saying that. But, look, their window, as far as the Stephon Diggs thing, I don't have that huge of a problem with it. Look, he hasn't really shown that much diva behavior in the past, and look, he's very emotional. We saw his blow up on the sideline towards Josh Allen, and he was just saying, but he was right. I mean, he's like, what are we doing here? Allen was not good this year. The second half of that year, he was a good quarterback, but he was not elite like he needs to be. He threw a ton of interceptions, fumbled the ball as well. Not 100% on him, but they don't have as much talent, really, when you look at it on paper, as some of the other teams like the Bengals. So surprising that they laid an egg, yes. Not surprising they lost, but surprising that game wasn't close really from the start. And, they have some soul-searching to do here in this offseason, and with potentially Brady and maybe Rodgers coming to this division to play quarterback, I mean, they don't have any room to lose.
I don't know if you saw this, but I saw a TikTok or a video of Tom Brady was at a private school in Miami looking for a place for his
Doesn't
kids.
mean anything. His ex-wife lives there, so I'm not thinking anything.
It was so funny because there's someone taking a video. It must have been just some person just random on the street. And Tom turns around to go leave, and he goes, "So, Tom, you coming to play for Miami?" It's so funny.
I don't want to talk about Tom Brady. His interview yesterday, the other day, was the cringiest thing I've ever heard in my life. But.
And for the Bills, they're just missing like an it factor. And
running back. How about a running back?
Yeah.
Get a running game going.
Everybody wants to talk about the running game. They were like top 10 in rushing, but that's because of Josh
Allen.
They don't have a literal running back. So maybe Brandon Beane, their GM, who's done a fantastic job, by the way, going out and getting Von Miller, who could be that it factor if he were healthy. Maybe he goes and drafts Bijan Robinson or does something crazy.
Back up the truck for Tony Pollard. Somebody like Tony Pollard, a back that can go out of the. Look, Singletary's not garbage, but they don't scheme all for it, and it looks like their plan is just like, well, if we get in trouble, Josh will make a play. He'll run around and dive. That's not a Super Bowl winning mentality, which is why, again, they have not even made a Super Bowl in this run that they've been having.
And to switch gears back to, I want to say something about the Chiefs-Bengals game because I haven't made my prediction on that, which is a complete toss-up to me. And I understand why the Bengals might have a slight couple-point favorite this week because they have the better run game, they have better receivers, and their defense has been balling. But it's just Andy Reid, and somehow, some way, Travis Kelce gets open so much, and they work with what they have at receiver, whether it's Kadarius Toney or who knows who it is that steps up this week. I've got the Chiefs because I think Chris Jones and that defensive line is going to have a big game, and of course they're not going to. Burrow's played with a bad offensive line basically his whole career, but I think it will overwhelm him a little bit too much. And I hate to do it because the Bengals on paper have a better roster, but I just think Andy Reid and that offense are going to find a way, even with a hobbled Patrick Mahomes that might not be able to run the ball as much.
The sexiest matchup on paper is 49ers-Bengals, just because of the history, right? You guys don't remember it, but like that'd be the sexiest matchup. What could be the best game? probably Eagles, Chiefs.
Chiefs. I put on my Twitter yesterday
That's my
top 4 matchups because you would get the Kelsey Bowl and you get Andy Reid against his former team, and those are the 2 most complete teams in the
He
NFL.
does not like the Eagles. He got fired.
I also just think that that's the best matchup in general. Chiefs Eagles. I don't see like Brock Purdy being in the Super Bowl doesn't mean a lot to me.
No.
Like when Jimmy G was in it, like that was something. Or if Trey Lance was in it, that would be something. But it doesn't.
Because I think Purdy could be a nothing burger in a year or two. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the only matchup I don't really want to see is Bengals Eagles. It just, I don't know what it is. There's just no real storyline there. It's 2 good teams kind of thrown together. But I think the other 3 matchups would be very, very good.
So I'm Chiefs Eagles. Cole, you're Chiefs Eagles.
Yeah.
And you're
Chiefs Eagles.
I also like Niners Bengals too, though.
All right. So I think we're unanimous.
But that's the thing. Like it really could be any of the 4 combinations, which is why the game's. Which is the first game?
Yeah.
First game is the NFC Championship.
Okay.
Is that Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
3 and or 3:30 and 6:30.
6:30.
All right.
I used to go to a lot of those games. I love the 3:30 game when we went to the Patriots games because you get to watch a second one.
There you go. That was cool. We'll talk about some hockey now. We'll start with the Boston Bruins. 30.
They good?
Right? Real funny. I gotta give a shout out to Cole who wore Bruins attire to our
What?
broadcast last night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a. You asked me one time, are you a Bruins fan? Of course, even if I'm not a huge hockey fan.
Can you name 5 players on the team?
Oh, I definitely can.
Okay.
You want me
No,
to?
I don't want you
Yeah, I want him to. Can you name 5 players?
Okay.
Outside
so we
of
have
okay, well, you get Bergeron, Krejci. I mean, I could name 5
all right.
players. but
We
you
got
know,
Bergeron, Marchand, Krejci, McAvoy, Lindholm, Olmark, Swayman. That's 6. I could probably name a couple
That was
more.
7. I'll give you
7.
It's
Yeah.
a solid.
Dougie Hamilton still on the team?
Oh my God. Oh my. You're just doing this to.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All
Anyway,
right.
just enjoy. They're the best team in the history of the NHL. Just keep going. Go for it.
That's what the question is. They're 38-5-4, and they have a chance at making history. So the most points and wins in a season ever came in the same season. The 95-96 Red Wings had 62 wins and 131 points. The Bruins are currently on pace for 66 wins and 142 points. Do you think it is possible for them to break both the records or one of the both?
No. I think they're gonna have a swoon because look, they have bigger aspirations. And how many of these teams that who was it a couple years ago? Was the Lightning that won a ridiculous amount of games and got swept in the first round?
129 points and
okay, so it happens like that. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to the Bruins specifically, but I just think, look, could they? I mean, of course, look at the pace that they're on, but they're just, something's got to give. Unless all of these players, especially the goalies, are Martin Brodeur, reimagined here. At some point, they're gonna have a swoon, and like they're near the end of the season, if they've wrapped up the President's Trophy, like what is the point of getting that record if you don't win a Stanley Cup? So rest your guys, especially because they're not a young team. They've got some older guys. I think they come close. I think they probably finish with like 126, 127 points.
Don't mean a thing without a ring. I know that from the 73-win Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully they can just save their energy until the playoffs and just play well then, because you don't want to expend all your energy trying to get this win record.
Yeah. To me, the President's Trophy means nothing. I think it has nothing to do with the whole curse. I don't believe in the curse. I think it's so like the last team to win the President's Trophy and win a Stanley Cup was in 2018. It's not like it's been like 30 years or something.
But it doesn't happen often.
Yeah,
especially when they win by this much. No one's even close to them right now.
Yeah, but I think I would like to see them break the wins, the points. It's the points don't matter. We're I think it's like 14 points above the next best team. Our goal differential is like 50 above the next best team.
That's insane.
So we're just dominating. Continuing on hockey, but more in general, I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention and get a quick question out. So in the past week, 2 players have had reoccurring injuries in the NHL, and they were both pretty bad. Max Pacioretty tore his Achilles tendon last year, was out 6 to 8 months. He was out for almost 8 months, so basically the entire rehab process. Plays 3 games, ruptures the exact same Achilles tendon. He may never play hockey again.
I wouldn't either. I would never get on skates again.
Not really same situation, but Josh Norris for the Ottawa Senators had a very bad shoulder injury at the beginning of the season, preseason, was out 38 games, played 3 games, destroys the same shoulder, and both of these were non-contact. They got hit hard. Max Pacioretty was skating around the net and put his skate down a wrong way. And so Norris is now out for the rest of the season. Looking back to like Tua and some of these players that may be coming back too early, I guess the question I have is, do you think that this is an issue with players around all the leagues in general, coming back too early because they want to play and getting re-injured, or are these all isolated situations?
I would lean toward isolated because they are very different. And Achilles tendon, look, concussions are a totally different thing because it's one of those things. When you get concussions, you're more likely to get more concussions, and that really was a systemic failure of the NFL, and he may never be the same again. We'll see. I mean, it's the fact that he never returned to football activities is not a great sign for him. I always wonder, too, because these recovery times for these major injuries in all sports is so low now. Like, you tear an ACL, and you're out like 8 months. Not even in high school. You see these guys 8 and 9 months, they're back, which is I just don't know. And I'm not a medical guy at all, and never really had any of those significant injuries, but I think they're testing limits now where you're expected to come back, and you may get cleared, but maybe mentally you're not ready. I don't know. I don't know these two specific situations, but I think it's very rare for you to tear an Achilles or an ACL unless you just have a weak ACL or Achilles, right? And that happens, I guess. But yeah, it's you're always wondering about the pressure, and what I worry about it is when it trickles down to the high school level, and it's like, well, so and so he came back after 8 months for an ACL, so I should be able to come back too and play football. And it's like, you're not in the NFL right now, and if you get hurt and you're done, I mean, you're going to screw yourself out of a scholarship and everything else. So that's the worrying part I have.
Yeah, it's just that we've seen these speedy recovery times are becoming the norm, and like in the NFL, I think Tua had like 3 concussions this year. It's just kind of alarming. And then Mahomes has a high ankle sprain, and he's giving it a go the week after, which is supposed to be wasn't it like a 3 to 5 week injury, something like that? I know it's been the year of high ankle sprains in the NFL with Mac Jones and everything. But, as long as Mahomes has that confidence, because if he doesn't trust that leg, then he could get hurt again. So it's definitely a dangerous situation. Hopefully, Mahomes can get through it this weekend. But it's definitely we've definitely seen a lot of players having some speedy recoveries, and it could be good, could be bad. I don't know. It depends on the individual.
Yeah, we should get Tony in here for an interview about that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Not joking. It'd actually be a good one.
As we wrap this episode, I have one more question for you guys. It's not sports related, but it is kind of. So we've had a lot of cancellations with sports this year. It just kind of throws our schedule off for TATV, for everything, and it just our personal schedules as well. So the big question is, would you rather have a winter, or let's say almost a complete winter, with a lot of snow or 0 snow? Now, you can take a second to think about the pros and cons of having lots of snow. Like, if you get lots of snow, you have days off of school, and there's lots of fun things to do with the snow. But lots of things
clean off your car.
Yeah. So would you rather have a snow-filled winter or a snowless winter?
I would have 0.0 inches of snow.
Really?
Snow stinks. I don't ski. I don't ice skate. I don't even care about snow. I mean, I care about snow days, but it's now we have async snow days. Those aren't too bad because you don't have to make them up at the end of the year. Yeah. But no, I hate snow. I hate the darkness. I hate winter. Just hate the 6 months of. And the only thing good about what's going on now is sports. That's it. That's the only thing that keeps us sticking. But no, I have no. Maybe a couple flurries around Christmas. Sure, give me a flurry. Give me half an inch on the ground for Christmas morning. Yeah. But other than that, my goodness, no. I'm so happy last night that where I lived, it was all rain, 100%. Could not have been happier.
Yeah, I think if it's just for one winter, I would go no snow. Obviously, we need snow. I would never opt to see no snow again in my life, but a ton of cancellations and everything, and snow days are nice, so I don't know. I'm conflicted on that one, but I don't really like the snow. I also ski, but not to the point where I don't love it enough to love the snow, so I don't know.
I'd go no snow. I just don't think it's worth it. But I think there's still some good things that come with snow like these. Although I don't enjoy the async snow days because I still have to do homework on snow days.
It's not that bad. They give you less work.
Well, you're a senior too, so you don't have to make up the days anyway. So as you're a senior, you want as many snow days as possible.
They give you less work than if you were in school. I like them.
Yeah, but
it's the best thing to come out of COVID by far.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 42 of Trojan Talk. We will see you all next week and have fun wherever you are, whether it's snowy or not snowy.